Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 Black Blockchain Summit. Wow, we are back to this date already. Seems like just yesterday we were at the 2023 Blockchain Summit. So very excited to be here. It's an extreme honor and privilege to join you today. My name is Dr. James Ramon Gibson, and I'm a fractional C-suite consultant. I'm currently involved in a couple of projects that I'm particularly proud of. First, as the CEO of Call the AI, a forward-thinking AI solutions company based in Jersey, UK. And secondly, in my CEO role at German IT, where we've been immersed in the worlds of AI, blockchain, ERP, and project management. So today, we're going to navigate the complex but fascinating landscape of artificial intelligence with a particular focus on large language models, as we call them LLMs. We're going to see how these technologies can play a major role in the world of blockchain. But before we dive into the technical depths, let me set the stage. AI is no longer a futuristic concept confined to the pages of science fiction. It's here, it's real, and it's transforming industries at an unprecedented pace. The tools and technologies we're about to discuss have the potential to reshape the very fabric of our daily lives, from how we work to how we interact with the world. And this is our opportunity to be a part of it. So let's begin with the fundamentals. Artificial intelligence. What is it, really? Well, at its core, AI is about creating machines that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. We can think of it as a way of teaching computers to see patterns and learn from data and make decisions. Now, AI isn't monolithic. It comes in various flavors. We have narrow AI, which is what we really are working with today. It excels at specific tasks, taking command prompts, understanding the prompts, and really converting those prompts into human-like text. So that's where we are today. But where we're moving towards is general AI. Now, this is still an elusive goal, but this is a goal where machines would match or even surpass human cognitive abilities. Wow, that's deep. But let's make this more tangible. Let's consider devices we interact with daily. We have Siri and Alexa, for instance. Those are perfect examples of narrow AI. Again, narrow AI excels at performing specific tasks. They listen, they interpret, they respond, and they simulate a conversation with a real human being. But behind that simple interaction is really a complex network of algorithms, and it's designed to process and learn from each query that you make. And so this is called machine learning, which is a subset of AI. And this is where the system improves over time as it's exposed to more data. Now, if we take that concept and multiply it, let's say 1,000-fold, then we have deep learning. Okay, and that's where we're using layers of neural networks to analyze data in ways that are far more sophisticated than previous methods. It's inspired by the functionality of the human brain. Imagine the brain's network of neurons firing and wiring as we learn. Well, deep learning models are designed to mimic this process. So what's the next step? What's the next leap in AI? Well, many consider the most groundbreaking advancement in AI as LLMs. So if we look at AI as being the brain, then we can think of LLMs or large language models as being the linguistic center, which enables the machines to not just understand, but also to generate human-like text. So if we put it simply, LLMs are trained on vast amounts of text data. So if you can imagine just feeding a computer billions of books, articles, websites, well, over time, the models learn to recognize patterns in the language, much like how a child learns to speak by mimicking the words and phrases that they hear. But what's astonishing about the LLMs is their ability to generate text that can be indistinguishable from something that's written by a human. Well, if we take Chat GPT, for example, well, GPT-4, for example, which some of you might be already familiar with, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And it's a type of large language model used in artificial intelligence. It's based on the transformer architecture and trained on a lot of unlabeled text data. So we won't get too technical, but one specific implementation of GPT is ChatGPT, which is an AI chatbot that's developed by OpenAI. Again, GPT, the G stands for generative, which is the model's core capability. And that allows the model to create new data that mimics the input, the data it was trained on. The P stands for pre-trained, which refers to the model's initial learning phase. And then the T stands for transformer, which is the model architecture that the chat GPT is built on. So again, generative pre-trained transformer. So with the GPT, the model can write essays, it can draft emails, it can create poetry. Those are things or tasks that were traditionally reserved for humans. But what's truly fascinating is the breadth of the applications. And LLMs really expand the entirety of the industrial spectrum, whether it's assisting doctors by summarizing patient notes, helping marketers craft their personalized marketing content, supporting coders, even generating snippets of code. LLMs are very versatile tools that they're making a significant impact across multiple domains, and that's going to continue to grow. So we're speaking at a high level, and we're going to continue to stay at a high level, but let me really kind of talk about how these models work without going into too much of the technical jargon. So at the heart of the LLM is something called the transformer. So it's a type of model architecture that allows the system to understand the context of words by considering the relationships. So it's kind of akin to how the brains might interpret a sentence by looking at the entire context and rather than just looking at the individual words. So, for example, imagine if you're reading a book, right? Each word builds on the one before it, and the meaning of the sentence depends on the entire stream of words. So transformers do something really similar to that. They process all those words simultaneously, and that makes them incredibly efficient at generating content and contextually relevant text data. So, but moving on from technical, aspect of LLMs to practical, it might make you wonder, well, where do LLMs fit in my world? Well, as I said, the applications are as vast as they are impactful, and they're spanning across the entirety of the industrial spectrum. If we look in content creations, right, LLMs they're basically revolutionizing how businesses generate everything from blog posts to product descriptions and so on. In customer service, we have chat bots and virtual assistants. They can handle queries in real time. In my two endeavors that I spoke to, Call the AI and German IT, we are using the chat bots in German IT. We're using the chat bots as it relates to the ERP space to really handle customer tech support calls. We've basically built the knowledge base into our chat box and whatnot. So again, that allows us to leave our humans freed up for other tasks while the virtual assistants can handle the incoming customer queries and whatnot. So very, very powerful. But let's not overlook the importance of these models in sectors like healthcare. In healthcare, LLMs are assisting, doctors in diagnosing diseases, analyzing medical records, and even suggesting treatments. So they're not just tools, but they're really becoming critical partners in delivering better patient care. So we're here at the Blockchain Summit, so we can't ignore the synergy between LLMs and blockchain technology, right? So in a world where secure and transparency are paramount, LLMs can be leveraged to automate smart contracts, detect fraud, enhance overall system integrity. Just imagine a decentralized AI system that operates without central control, where every transaction, every interaction is secure and verified. This is the frontier where AI and blockchain converge. So lots more work to be done in that realm. And as we move forward here, we're going to see a lot more activity that really focuses on the marriage between AI and blockchain. But as we continue to, be impressed and marvel at these advancements, right, these technological advancements, it's really critical that we address the ethical implications that come with this powerful technology. One of the most pressing concerns, and we here in our Black Blockchain Summit community, we really need to focus on this here, and that concern is bias. LLMs learn from the data. And if that data contains biases, then the models can inadvertently perpetuate them. So whether it's in hiring practices, loan approvals, legal judgments, well, there's always a risk of biased AI decisions, right? So it's real and it's significant. So again, as we develop these new emerging technologies, it's really imperative to ensure that they're fair, and inclusive, right? We have to be included. We, the entirety of the populace, right, have to be included, right? If AI is going to be the next great power, right, then it has to be free of bias. Otherwise, then we're in a situation where the marginalized communities and marginalized people will continue to stay marginalized because we won't be a part of the conversation. We won't be a part of the building. So therefore, those biases will be again inadvertently perpetuated due to the data that was built into the LLM models. Another big pressing concern is privacy. We have the large language models. They process extreme amounts of data, and so with that now comes the risk of exposing sensitive information. So this is very relevant in industries like finance and healthcare, where privacy breaches can have severe consequences. So it's really the ethical landscape of AI that we really have to focus on. So therefore, strong governance and security protocols, they're just not, they're essential, right? So in order for us to continue moving forward, we have to have, a universal method of governance, right? So the question of governance, right, raise forth other questions as in how do we regulate AI? Who sets the standards? These are questions that industries and governments worldwide are grappling with right now. So it's really a very important dialogue that we all need to be a part of. So as we look forward, what's the future vision for AI and LLMs, right? Well, as we said, the potential of AI and LLMs is boundless, right? We're currently only scratching the surface of what's possible, right? We're on the ground floor. And again, that's why the call to action is for everyone in this community, everyone in this audience to get involved, right? We've got to contribute to making AI a force for good, right? So we have to ask ourselves, right? How can we leverage LLMs to drive progress, right? In the various fields, right? In the fields that you're interested in, the fields that I'm focused in, right? So this, again, is a call to action. So AI is democratizing access to knowledge. It's empowering individuals and communities, right? And it's breaking down barriers that once seemed insurmountable. So it's a tool for creativity, for innovation, and for change, right? And I invite you all to be a part of this journey. So let's continue to talk about AI governance, right? Because governance refers to the policies, regulations, and ethical guidelines that oversee the development, deployment, and use of AI technologies, right? So governance really is about ensuring that AI systems are developed and used in ways that are ethical, transparent, and accountable. And again, we have to be a part of the discussion because if we're not, then we're going to be left behind. And we're going to have AI that's really developed, right? And that's going to be full of bias, right? So it's going to be non-inclusive as opposed to inclusive. So as again, we look at AI and its relation to blockchain. Well, AI governance has a profound impact on blockchain technology, right? Because it influences how these systems are designed, deployed, and maintained. So effective governance assures that AI within blockchain systems is transparent, fair, and accountable, and aligns with the decentralized and trust-based nature of blockchain technology. So as AI and blockchain continue to evolve together, robust governance frameworks will be essential to unlocking the full potential while mitigating risk and protecting stakeholders. If we rewind the tape back to 2023 Black Blockchain Summit, right? One of the big topics of conversation was regulation, right? Regulation of the crypto industry, regulation of blockchain. Let's create standards, right? So fast forward to today, we're really still talking the same thing. Governance slash regulation, right? Again, critical for governance, governing bodies, governing policies and principles to be adopted, right? So that again, we have a framework that is fair, that it's ethical, that it's transparent, it is accountable. So we have covered a lot of ground to this point, but I want to go a little bit deeper, right? we've talked about the basics of AI, the intricacies of LLMs, applications, some of the ethical challenges they pose, the potential to transform our world. We discussed, the impacts of AI and blockchain and the need for governance, that both industries so desperately need. So, but how can we ensure, that there is governance, right? And what really are the primary prongs that governance need to ensure, right? Why is governance important? Well, as AI systems become more integrated, right, in the critical areas, areas that we've discussed already, healthcare, finance, law enforcement, and just even everyday decision making, right? Right, the potential for these systems to impact society grows, right? So without proper oversight, AI can perpetuate the biases, you know, invade privacy, and lead to unintended harmful consequences, right? So again, we have to be a part of the conversation. So what's going on right now in the world of governance, right? If we look across the globe, right, you know, AI governance is still in its formative stages, but there are several key factors and frameworks that are currently being developed worldwide, right? If we look over in the European Union, right, they're developing what they call the ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI, and their standpoint is they want to emphasize that AI systems should be lawful, ethical, and robust, and their guidelines highlight the need for AI to be transparent. Again, transparency. We continue to say that word, right? And again, being in the blockchain environment, it's all about transparency. So we need to ensure the users understand how decisions are made and challenge those decisions if necessary. So looking at regulatory frameworks, right? The European Union's proposed AI Act is one of the most comprehensive efforts to regulate AI. It categorizes AI applications based on the risk levels from minimal to unacceptable. Over here in the United States, right, there's growing discussion around AI regulation. The Algorithmic Accountability Act is an example of legislation aimed at addressing the biases and risks associated with AI systems, right? We're also looking at AI standards and certification. So there's a movement towards creating standards and certification process for AI systems, right? So this would theoretically, this would work similarly to how products in other industries are certified. If we look at the International Organization for Standardization, which we commonly refer to the ISO, right? So the ISO is currently working on developing standards for AI, right? Focusing on areas such as data quality, algorithmic transparency, and system robustness, right? So what are some of the challenges that we currently have and what's the path forward? Well, there's still a lot of challenges, that we face with AI governance, just as we did and as we still face with the regulation over in the blockchain and crypto space, right? We need global coordination, right? AI is a global technology, right? But oftentimes governance is implemented at the national or regional level. So we need a global coordinated effort, right, to create a global governing body for AI, right? We need to be able to keep pace with innovation, right? And because AI technology advances so rapidly, right? It often outpaced, the development of regulations and guidelines, right? So guidelines, the developers of regulations and guidelines, right, really need to increase the pace, right, in order to keep pace with the technology because it advances so rapidly. So, when we issue guidelines and regulations, right, that don't outpace the technology, we're kind of walking two steps behind, right? So we really need to be proactive, right, as opposed to reactive when we develop regulations and guidelines. Another area of concern is balancing innovation and regulation, right? Striking the right balance between fostering innovation and ensuring responsibility, right? So that's going to be critical, right? Overly restrictive regulations, right, can stifle innovations, while too little oversight could lead to harmful consequences and really take things off the rail. So and the governance isn't just the responsibility of governance and regulators. It requires involvement from stakeholders, the developers and tech companies, academia and research institutions. One of my obligations, as a research scientist, right, as a doctor of philosophy and science, one of my responsibilities is to contribute to the development of ethical guidelines and standards, right? Civil society and advocacy groups, right? Everybody plays a part in this here. The public, the general public, right? Public engagement in AI governance is crucial, right? Right. All individuals, right, regardless of SC or socioeconomic status, right? All individuals must be informed about how AI impacts their lives and have avenues to participate in the discussions about AI policies and regulations. So again, this has to, feed the entirety of the populace, right, in order for AI to really truly be optimal in its givings, right, to the world, right? So AI governance is critical, and that's going to determine how we as a general public are able to harness the power of AI while mitigating the various risks that come with AI. Right? So if we dial it down more specifically into blockchain, how does AI governance impact blockchain? Well, again, some of the things that we said before, it ensures fairness and transparency in decentralized systems, which is the core, right? The core philosophy behind blockchain, right? Blockchain technology is inherently decentralized, with its core principles being transparency, immutability, and trustlessness, right? So now blockchain network transactions are recorded on a distributed ledger that's visible to all participants, and no single entity controls the entire system. So when we have AI merged into blockchain, when it's integrated with blockchain, we can enhance the efficiency and intelligence of decentralized systems. So, for example, AI can be used to optimize smart contracts, can be used to automate decision-making processes or analyze large data sets within the blockchain. So again, the marriage, right, really is beneficial. It's mutually beneficial, right, for those focused on the AI side of the coin, as well as for those focused on the blockchain side of the coin. So really important that as we build governance and regulatory models, right, that we really look at both of the technologies, right, in tandem, right? So the models will really kind of cast a fair shade of umbrella across both of the technologies. Bias detection, transparency, privacy and data protection in blockchain applications, data sovereignty and blockchain. Well, AI can be used to analyze data on the blockchain, make predictions, drive automated decisions, but this can also raise privacy concerns, right? So especially if the AI models are trained on sensitive data stored on the blockchain. So again, sensitive information, privacy, paramount importance, right? So again, as we look to governance and regulations, we have to consider data usage, transparency, anonymity, and data minimization, um, compliance with privacy laws. So we also have to look at accountability and autonomous solutions, right? Autonomous decision making. Blockchain and AI can basically create autonomous organizations, can create DAOs, or automated financial trading platforms where AI makes decisions based on blockchain data. And all this happens or can happen without human intervention. So again, that breeds additional governance challenges. So in such systems where accountability becomes a major concern, right? Who's going to be responsible if AI makes a flawed decision that results in financial loss, security breaches, or negative outcomes, right? So we have to establish accountability when we're developing regulation and compliance guidelines. So lots of work to be done. But what does this mean? It means this opens up opportunity. So as we move towards mass adoption of these emerging technologies, right, what's going to be critically important is knowledge and education. Knowledge and education is going to give us that understanding, which is going to allow us to kind of knock on those walls that have kind of hindered us from the mass adoption of these emerging technologies. It's going to allow us to openly participate in these technologies, right? So once we have a knowledge and understanding of something, we can make more informed and educated decisions as to whether or not this particular technology is for us or not. So again, I think it's our mission, it's our job, me as an evangelist, to really just go about, my daily life, really teaching and preaching the word of reality and really giving understanding where there is a lack of understanding, to understand how these emerging technologies can be beneficial in our daily lives. And again, we all have the opportunity to have a seat at the table. So again, this is a call to action. Let's get in. Let's come in and really ask the hard questions. How can these technologies help me? What will they do for me? And again, I think it's time to level up on your skill sets, right? Because AI is not going anywhere. It's only going to become increasingly present in our daily lives, right? So a big fear is being replaced by artificial intelligence. Well, again, the call to action is to level up your skills, right? Um, Become familiar with applications like ChatGPT. Um, Become familiar with other applications out there that utilize large language models. Because again, it's not going anywhere. So in order for us to remain competitive, right, and even be on the forefront of these technologies, we really have to level up and we have to get involved. We can't be afraid of these technologies. We have to embrace them. But more so, we have to be a voice, right, so that as we build these technologies, they are built with our community, with our voice in mind, right? So we want to be a part of this growing and massive technology, right? But let's do it. Let's do it with the right mindset. So as we close out, as again, we've covered a lot of ground. But as you leave here today, I encourage you to think about how you can apply what you've learned, whether it's in your business, your research, your everyday life. There are countless ways to engage with AI and LLMs. Um, let's partner. I want to extend an invitation. Let's continue this conversation, whether it's through collaboration, consulting, or further discussion. I'm here to help navigate this exciting, complex landscape. So together, we can harness the power of AI to create a future that's not only innovative, but also equitable and inclusive. Again, my name is Dr. James Ramon Gibson. I can be reached at james@drjamesgibson.com. Would love to continue conversation. And again, I invite you, please, please, be a part of this conversation. It's not going anywhere. So let's be a part of the conversation. Let's lead the conversation. It's been great. Have a fantastic Black Blockchain Summit. Look forward to talking with you guys. Be good.